Hello, my beautiful students. Welcome to our channel, Learn English with Clara. Today, we are going to talk about something that touches almost every single person's life at some point: manipulation. Maybe you have felt it at work. Maybe you have felt it in a friendship. Maybe you have felt it in a relationship, a family, or even online. And maybe, until now, you did not have the words to explain what was happening to you. You only knew one thing: something felt wrong. Listen carefully. Manipulation is not always loud. It is not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it looks like kindness. Sometimes it looks like concern. But underneath it, there is a hidden goal: control. Manipulators do not always shout. Manipulators do not always threaten. Often, they simply learn your weak points and quietly use them against you, again and again, until you no longer trust your own mind. Today, we are going to open this topic honestly. We are going to look at 8 real psychological tactics that manipulators use. Some of these tactics have names from real psychology research. Some of them have been studied for decades. And once you understand them clearly, something powerful happens. You cannot easily be fooled by them again, because the moment you can name a tactic, that tactic slowly loses its power over you. So stay with me until the end, because this video may help you understand a person from your past. It may help you understand a person in your life right now. And most importantly, it may help you protect your own mind in the future. Tactic 1. Gaslighting. Let us begin with one of the most damaging tactics of all: gaslighting. This word comes from an old play and film called Gaslight from the 1930s and 1940s. In that story, a husband secretly dims the gas lights in his own home again and again. Then, when his wife notices the lights becoming darker, he insists nothing has changed. He tells her she is imagining things. He tells her she is confused. Slowly, over time, she starts to believe she is actually losing her mind. That is exactly what gaslighting means today. It means making someone doubt their own memory, their own perception, and their own sanity on purpose. Think about this carefully. A gaslighter does not argue with facts. A gaslighter erases facts. You say, "You said this yesterday." They say, "I never said that. You are imagining things." You say, "That hurt my feelings." They say, "You are too sensitive. That never even happened." Over time, something dangerous occurs inside the victim's mind. They stop trusting their own memory. They stop trusting their own eyes. They start asking themselves constantly, "Am I overreacting? Am I remembering this wrong? Am I the problem?" Listen carefully, because this is important. Gaslighting works so well because it attacks the one thing every person depends on completely: their own sense of reality. If someone can convince you that you cannot trust your own mind, they no longer need to control your actions directly. You will start controlling yourself out of fear that your judgment is wrong. Another important truth is this: gaslighting rarely happens in one single moment. It happens slowly, in small doses, over weeks, months, or even years. One small denial here. One small, "That's not what happened" there. One small, "You're remembering it wrong," again and again. Each moment alone may seem small enough to ignore, but together they build something powerful: a person who no longer trusts themselves. Take a moment and think about your own life. Has anyone ever made you feel like you were too sensitive, too dramatic, or crazy, simply for noticing something true? Has anyone ever denied something you clearly remember happening? That uncomfortable feeling, that confusion, that self-doubt, that is often the fingerprint of gaslighting. Here is something powerful you must remember. Your memory is not perfect. Nobody's is. But if one specific person, again and again, makes you doubt your memory more than anyone else in your life does, That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. And patterns reveal intention. Another dangerous thing about gaslighting is this. It often targets confident, intelligent people first, not weak people, as many assume. Why? Because a gaslighter cannot control someone who already doubts themselves easily. There is no dramatic shift needed. But a strong, self-assured person is a real challenge. So the manipulator works patiently, chipping away, small denial after small denial, until even the strongest mind starts to wobble. Remember this carefully. The way out of gaslighting is not to argue harder. It is to write things down. It is to trust outside evidence, dates, messages, other witnesses, over one single person's version of events. It is to notice the pattern, not just the single moment. Because once you can see the pattern clearly, the gaslighting stops working the way it used to. Tactic 2. Love bombing. Now let us talk about a tactic that feels wonderful at first. Almost too wonderful. This one is called love bombing, and the name comes from a surprising place. It was first used in the 1970s to describe how certain groups recruited new members by showering strangers with instant attention, praise, gifts, and a powerful feeling of belonging very quickly. Psychologists later noticed the exact same pattern showing up in unhealthy romantic relationships and friendships. Think about this carefully. Love bombing means an overwhelming amount of affection, compliments, gifts, and attention delivered very fast, very early, before real trust has even had time to form naturally. Someone tells you that you are their soulmate after only 2 weeks. Someone constantly messages you, calls you, wants to know where you are every hour. Someone buys expensive gifts almost immediately. Someone says, "I have never felt this way about anyone," within days of meeting you. It feels incredible. It feels like finally someone truly sees you. But listen carefully, because here is the important part. Real connection takes time to build. Real trust is earned slowly, through consistency, honesty, and shared experience. Love bombing skips all of that. It manufactures intense emotional intimacy artificially, and fast, before you have had the chance to see who this person truly is. Another important truth is this. Love bombing is not really about you. It is about creating dependency. When someone floods you with intense affection early, your brain releases powerful feel-good chemicals. You begin to crave that feeling. And once that craving is established, the manipulator often shifts. The constant attention slowly reduces. The compliments become less frequent. Small criticisms begin appearing. And now you find yourself working hard, desperately, to get back that early, intoxicating feeling. That shift, from overwhelming love to sudden distance, is the actual trap. Take a moment and think about your own relationships, romantic or otherwise. Has anyone ever made you feel like the center of the entire universe within days, and then slowly pulled that feeling away once you were emotionally invested? That pattern, fast and intense in the beginning, followed by a colder, more controlling stage, is one of the clearest warning signs in modern psychology. Another dangerous thing about love bombing is this. It disables your natural caution. Normally, when you meet someone new, you naturally take time. You watch how they treat other people. You notice small inconsistencies. You build trust slowly. But an overwhelming flood of affection short-circuits that natural caution. You feel so good, so quickly, that your guard comes down before you have any real evidence about this person's true character. Remember this carefully. Real love does not need to move at lightning speed to feel real. Genuine connection can handle a slower pace. It can handle you taking your time. It can handle you still trusting your own judgment along the way. If someone becomes upset, impatient, or hurt simply because you want to take things slowly, That reaction alone tells you something important about what they actually want from you. Tactic 3. Guilt tripping. Here is a tactic almost everyone has experienced at some point. Guilt tripping. This tactic uses one of your most valuable qualities, your conscience, your empathy, your care for others, and turns it into a weapon against you. Listen carefully. A guilt tripper does not usually ask directly for what they want. Instead, they create a feeling of obligation, shame, or responsibility inside you until you give them what they want simply to make that uncomfortable feeling stop. After everything I have done for you, I guess I will just sit here alone then. Nobody else would put up with you like I do. If you really cared about me, you would do this. These sentences are not really requests. They are pressure, dressed up as vulnerability. Another important truth is this. Genuinely kind, caring people are usually the easiest targets for guilt tripping, not because they are weak, but precisely because they are compassionate. A manipulator learns quickly that if they can make you feel responsible for their emotions, their happiness, or their disappointment, they no longer need to ask for anything honestly. Your own guilt will do the work for them. Think about this carefully. There is a real difference between someone honestly expressing their feelings and someone using those feelings to control your decisions. Saying, "I felt hurt when you canceled our plans," is honest communication. Saying, "I guess I don't matter to you at all," when you simply had a scheduling conflict, is guilt tripping. One invites understanding, the other demands submission. Another dangerous thing about guilt tripping is this. Over time, it slowly reshapes your decisions. You stop asking yourself, what do I actually want or need here? Instead, you start asking, what will avoid making this person upset? And slowly, without even noticing it happening, your own needs quietly disappear from your own decision-making process. Take a moment and think about your recent choices. How many of them were made because you truly wanted to? And how many were made simply to avoid someone's disappointment, silence, or anger? If the second answer is happening constantly with one particular person, that relationship deserves a closer, more honest look. Remember this carefully. You are allowed to disappoint people sometimes. You are allowed to say no. Genuine relationships can survive your honest boundaries. Only manipulative ones require your constant, guilty compliance to continue running smoothly. Tactic 3. Guilt tripping. Here is a tactic almost everyone has experienced at some point. Guilt tripping. This tactic uses one of your most valuable qualities, your conscience, your empathy, your care for others, and turns it into a weapon against you. Listen carefully. A guilt tripper does not usually ask directly for what they want. Instead, they create a feeling of obligation, shame, or responsibility inside you until you give them what they want simply to make that uncomfortable feeling stop. After everything I have done for you, I guess I will just sit here alone then. Nobody else would put up with you like I do. If you really cared about me, you would do this. These sentences are not really requests. They are pressure, dressed up as vulnerability. Another important truth is this. Genuinely kind, caring people are usually the easiest targets for guilt tripping, not because they are weak, but precisely because they are compassionate. A manipulator learns quickly that if they can make you feel responsible for their emotions, their happiness, or their disappointment, they no longer need to ask for anything honestly. Your own guilt will do the work for them. Think about this carefully. There is a real difference between someone honestly expressing their feelings and someone using those feelings to control your decisions. Saying, "I felt hurt when you canceled our plans," is honest communication. Saying, "I guess I don't matter to you at all," when you simply had a scheduling conflict, is guilt tripping. One invites understanding, the other demands submission. Another dangerous thing about guilt tripping is this. Over time, it slowly reshapes your decisions. You stop asking yourself, what do I actually want or need here? Instead, you start asking, what will avoid making this person upset? And slowly, without even noticing it happening, your own needs quietly disappear from your own decision-making process. Take a moment and think about your recent choices. How many of them were made because you truly wanted to? And how many were made simply to avoid someone's disappointment, silence, or anger? If the second answer is happening constantly with one particular person, that relationship deserves a closer, more honest look. Remember this carefully. You are allowed to disappoint people sometimes. You are allowed to say no. Genuine relationships can survive your honest boundaries. Only manipulative ones require your constant, guilty compliance to continue running smoothly. Tactic 4. The silent treatment. Now let's talk about a tactic that uses something surprising as its weapon: silence. The silent treatment means deliberately refusing to speak to someone, ignoring their messages, or shutting down communication completely as a way to punish them or force them into submission. Listen carefully, because there is an important difference here. Sometimes people genuinely need space after a difficult conversation, to calm down, to think clearly before continuing. That is healthy. But the silent treatment used as manipulation is different. It is not about needing space. It is about using disconnection as a punishment, deliberately, until the other person becomes anxious enough to apologize, beg, or give in, often for something they did not even do wrong. Another important truth is this: human beings are deeply social creatures. Our brains are wired to feel real distress when we are excluded or ignored. Even research on simple social rejection shows this distress activates similar areas in the brain as physical pain. A manipulator, consciously or unconsciously, understands this. They know that ignoring you completely creates a powerful, uncomfortable anxiety inside you, and they use that anxiety as leverage. Think about this carefully. During the silent treatment, the victim often finds themselves apologizing repeatedly, sometimes for things they never actually did, simply to end the unbearable silence. "I'm sorry, I don't even know what I did wrong, but I'm sorry, please just talk to me." That sentence right there is often the exact goal the manipulator was hoping to hear. Another dangerous thing about the silent treatment is this: it teaches you, slowly, that expressing your own needs or disagreements leads to painful disconnection. So over time, you simply stop bringing up problems at all. You stop expressing disagreement. You stop being honest about how you feel because you have learned, through repeated, painful experience, that honesty gets punished with silence. Take a moment and think about this. Healthy conflict in any relationship involves talking, even when it is uncomfortable. It involves listening, explaining, sometimes disagreeing, and eventually moving forward together. If disagreement in your relationship regularly leads to days of cold silence instead of conversation, that silence is not really about needing space. It is about control. Remember this carefully. You are not responsible for fixing someone else's silence. If a person refuses to communicate and expects you to guess your way back into their good graces, that is not healthy conflict resolution. That is a punishment disguised as distance. Tactic 5. DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. This next tactic has a real name in psychology, and once you learn it, you will start noticing it everywhere. It is called DARVO, and it was named by a researcher who studies abuse and trauma. DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Listen carefully because this pattern is powerful once you understand it. Here is how it works, step by step. First, deny. When confronted about something harmful they did, the manipulator simply denies it happened, or denies that it was actually harmful. Second, attack. Instead of addressing what was said, they attack the credibility, character, or stability of the person confronting them. You're always so dramatic. You're the one with the real problem here. Third, and this is the most powerful step, reverse victim and offender. The manipulator suddenly presents themselves as the true victim of the situation, while framing the original victim as the actual aggressor. Think about this carefully with a simple example. Imagine someone confronts a manipulator honestly. "You really hurt me when you said that." A Darvo response might sound like this. "I never said that. And honestly, you're always attacking me like this. I can't believe after everything I do for you, you're treating me like I'm some kind of villain. I'm the one who should be upset right now." Notice what just happened. In 3 sentences, the wrongdoing disappeared, the accuser became the attacker, and the original manipulator became the victim. Another important truth is this. Research on Darvo has shown something genuinely alarming. When people witness this pattern, even outside observers often become confused about who the real victim actually is. The tactic does not only work on the direct target, it can distort the perception of anyone watching the situation unfold. Another dangerous thing about Darvo is this. It makes victims hesitant to speak up again in the future. Because the very first time they tried to address a real problem honestly, they were met with denial, attack, and suddenly found themselves apologizing for someone else's behavior. That confusing, exhausting experience teaches people to simply stay quiet next time, which is exactly what allows the pattern to continue. Take a moment and think about a conversation you may have had, where you brought up a real, legitimate concern, and somehow, by the end of that conversation, you were the one apologizing. If that pattern has repeated itself multiple times with the same person, you may have experienced Darvo firsthand. Remember this carefully. The best defense against Darvo is staying anchored to the original issue. When someone tries to flip the conversation onto your character instead of addressing what actually happened, calmly bring the conversation back. "I understand you feel that way, but I am still talking about what happened earlier." Do not let the subject change. That is exactly what they are counting on. Tactic 6. Triangulation. Here is a tactic that involves a third person, sometimes someone who does not even realize they are being used. This tactic is called triangulation, and it means deliberately pulling another person into a 2-person relationship or conflict in order to create jealousy, insecurity, or confusion. Listen carefully, because triangulation can look many different ways. It might sound like, "My ex never had a problem with this." It might sound like, "Everyone else in the family agrees with me, not you." It might sound like constantly comparing you to a coworker, a friend, or a former partner in ways that make you feel replaceable, insecure, or in competition. Sometimes it even involves a manipulator telling 2 different people 2 completely different, conflicting stories, turning both of them against each other, while the manipulator stays comfortably in the middle, controlling the entire situation. Another important truth is this. Triangulation works because human beings are naturally wired to care about comparison and belonging. When you are compared unfavorably to someone else, it activates a very old, very deep insecurity, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being replaced. A manipulator who understands this can use it constantly, keeping you slightly anxious, slightly competitive, and therefore easier to control. Think about this carefully. In a healthy relationship, disagreements are handled directly between the 2 people actually involved. In a manipulative dynamic, disagreements often get redirected through other people. Instead of talking honestly to you, the manipulator talks about you to someone else, shaping that person's opinion before you even get a chance to explain your own side. Another dangerous thing about triangulation is this: it isolates you slowly, without you fully realizing it. If a manipulator can convince your friends, your family, or even mutual acquaintances that their version of events is the correct one, you may find yourself increasingly alone, surrounded by people who have already decided you are the problem, based on a story you never even got to respond to. Take a moment and think about this. Has anyone in your life regularly brought up comparisons, other people's opinions, or third-party judgments, instead of simply talking to you directly about a concern? That pattern of avoiding direct communication in favor of pulling other people into the middle is a strong sign of triangulation. Remember this carefully. Healthy conflict happens directly between the people actually involved. If someone consistently avoids talking to you honestly, preferring instead to build a case against you through other people, that is not communication. That is strategy. Tactic 7. Intermittent reinforcement. This next tactic is, psychologically, one of the most powerful of them all, and it comes directly from real experimental research. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner discovered something fascinating while studying reward patterns. When a reward is given every single time a behavior happens, the behavior is learned quickly, but it is also abandoned quickly once the reward stops. But when a reward is given randomly, unpredictably, sometimes yes, sometimes no, the behavior becomes incredibly resistant to stopping. It becomes, essentially, addictive. Listen carefully, because this exact principle explains one of the most confusing parts of manipulative relationships. Why do people stay even when they are clearly unhappy? Why is it so hard to walk away even when logic says they should? The answer, very often, is intermittent reinforcement. A manipulator who is cold, critical, and controlling nearly all the time, but occasionally, unpredictably, becomes warm, loving, and generous, creates an incredibly powerful psychological hook. Think about this carefully. If someone treated you badly every single moment, walking away would feel obvious, almost easy. But when the bad moments are mixed unpredictably with genuinely wonderful moments, your brain starts anticipating that next good moment, the same way a brain anticipates an unpredictable reward. This creates real chemical activity connected to anticipation and craving, and it is remarkably similar to what happens inside the brain of someone struggling with gambling addiction. Another important truth is this. During the difficult, cold, critical periods, the body often experiences real physical stress, connected to stress hormones. Then, when warmth suddenly returns, that stress drops sharply, and the sudden relief itself feels intensely rewarding, almost euphoric. This creates a cycle: tension, relief, that can bond a person to a relationship far more powerfully than simple, steady kindness ever could. Another dangerous thing about intermittent reinforcement is this. From the outside, people often ask, "Why don't you just leave? It seems obvious." But this misunderstands the psychology completely. The person is not simply choosing bad treatment. Their brain has been trained, gradually, through unpredictable reward, to crave the unpredictable good moments enough to tolerate the bad ones in between. Take a moment and think about this carefully. In your own experience, or in relationships you have witnessed, has there been a pattern of coldness and cruelty, followed unpredictably by intense warmth and affection, followed again by coldness? That specific cycle, unpredictable and repeating, is often far more powerful and far more difficult to walk away from than simple, consistent unkindness ever would be. Remember this carefully. Recognizing this pattern by name takes away some of its power. Once you understand that your attachment may be connected to unpredictability itself, rather than to genuine, steady love, you can start asking a much more honest question. Not, do I love the good moments? But, is this relationship overall actually good for me? Tactic 8. How to protect your mind. We have covered 7 real, researched manipulation tactics: gaslighting, love bombing, guilt tripping, the silent treatment, Darvo, triangulation, intermittent reinforcement. Now let us talk about the most important part of this entire video. How do you actually protect yourself? Listen carefully, because protection does not mean becoming cold, suspicious, or closed off to every single person in your life. That would only create a different kind of unhappiness. Real protection means something calmer and much more powerful. It means learning to trust your own perception again, steadily, consistently, no matter how confidently someone else denies it. Another important truth is this: manipulation depends heavily on confusion. It depends on you doubting your own memory, your own worth, your own right to expect honesty and respect. So the very first, most powerful defense is simple: write things down. Keep track of patterns, not just single moments. One bad day does not define a relationship, but a repeating pattern over weeks and months tells you something true. Think about this carefully. Manipulators are experts at making each individual incident seem small, forgettable, easy to excuse. It was just one comment. It was just one silent evening. It was just one comparison. But patterns are not made of one incident. They are made of many small incidents added together. Zoom out. Look at the whole pattern, not just the most recent excuse. Another dangerous thing to understand is this: you cannot logically argue your way out of manipulation with someone who benefits from the confusion. Trying to win every single argument, prove every single point, and get every single apology often keeps you trapped in an exhausting cycle that never actually resolves. Sometimes real protection means stepping back entirely rather than continuing to fight for someone else's honesty. Take a moment and think about your own boundaries. A boundary is not cruelty. A boundary is not selfishness. A boundary is simply a clear, honest line that says, this is what I will accept and this is what I will not accept, regardless of how it is explained to me afterward. People who genuinely respect you will respect that boundary. People who resist your boundary the most are often revealing exactly why you needed it in the first place. Another powerful truth is this: healing from manipulation often starts with something surprisingly simple: believing yourself again, believing your own memory, believing your own feelings, believing that discomfort, that quiet unease you feel around a certain person, even when you cannot immediately explain it with perfect words. Your intuition is often collecting information long before your conscious mind can fully articulate it. Remember this carefully, because this is the real lesson behind everything we discussed today. Manipulation survives in silence, in self-doubt, and in isolation. It weakens the moment you can name it clearly, the moment you write it down honestly, and the moment you speak about it openly with someone you trust. Understanding these 8 tactics does not just help you recognize other people, it helps you rebuild trust in the most important relationship of all, the relationship with your own mind. If this video helped you understand these tactics more clearly and helped you practice your English at the same time, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep learning with Clara.